have just so very many things to say, but I'm going to start by moving this over here. Okay, you ready? Everybody, off your computer. I have some questions for you. How many people here have a full-time job with benefits, and they are expecting to stay in that job for the next 5 to 25 years? Come on. Okay. Now we want you to stand up and take a bow. No, okay. How many people here either are freelancing right now or have freelanced in the past? Sorry, I should say clap, but that's good. Okay. Now, how many people expect at some time in the future that they may be freelancing in between jobs, moonlighting, or it's just probably going to happen to me? Well, first of all, thank you so much for clapping. Let me just say that this is not surprising because actually click. I keep forgetting I have the slides, so I might as well use them. Okay. So 1 in 3 Americans are now working independently, which means 42 million Americans are working in this way. And what's so significant, particularly for this conference, is that if you talk to anybody here and ask what makes a successful freelancer, the number one thing that everyone will tell you is you have to have a robust network. Am I standing in the right place, by the way? Yes, okay. You have to have a robust network because that's how you find work, that's how you can find out how much to charge, that's how you find out about health insurance, that's how you find out about where to meet other people, to share, to barter, to build social capital. It's all your network. But now remember that there are 42 million Americans who are coming together. If that's not the quintessential platform of platforms and networks of networks, and what that shows us is that this ginormous network is going to be defining the social agenda for the next era. And this ginormous network is going to be powered by something called solidarity. Solidarity feels like a kind of vintage, quaint term that we kind of know. Oh, click. I really wish somebody else would do this with me, but anyway. Okay, so solidarity is this like vintage or quaint term, but it actually has 2 components. The first is something that's almost spiritual, that sense that there's something greater than yourself, and you know when you've participated in something where you went to something, but you just became part of a whole. But it's the second component, which is the economic interconnection between people. And when you have those 2 things, you have the most powerful things in the world. And we've seen it. This is almost like the year of solidarity. The Occupy movement, the Arab Spring that toppled governments. And this isn't the first time. If people can recall or remember reading about Andrew, the Gdansk Polish shipyard workers, who were the ones who actually brought down the Soviet Union in their strike. But really, why is this all important? Because this is actually the 3rd industrial revolution. The first was in the 1860s. Anybody remember that? In the 1860s, there were new factories, incredibly long working hours. Remember hearing about children working. And there was actually a social movement, a craft union movement and social movement that came together and said, these are not the conditions that we think Americans should work in. And they built the progressive era. And the second revolution came with mass production and the manufacturing era. And that's where we had a 40-hour work week, and we said, these jobs should also come with benefits. And that was called the New Deal. And now we're in the 3rd industrial revolution, and we have to say, what is the zeitgeist of our era? We know that work is now much more like jobs and gigs and projects, and that this has a very different zeitgeist. And I don't need to tell you because I have been listening to speaker after speaker after speaker. We're all recognizing there's something new here. And many of us are calling it the collaborative economy. We at Freelancers Union call it new mutualism. And in fact, we had a Subway ad campaign last year that you may have seen that said, help us help you, help us all. And maybe our best support system is ourselves. And really what we're saying is that we have to start thinking about a new way to come together in the economy. But what I think is so important is that we should see that we have a great tradition here, the cooperative movement, that provides us just an incredible model. The cooperative movement currently has 30,000 jobs. It has $500 billion in revenue and 1 million jobs, 30,000 co-ops, and 1 million jobs. And you know some of these. Ace Hardware, Land O'Lake, Ocean Spray. You know it in New York, in cooperative housing, credit unions. Freelancers Union has been incredibly influenced by this movement, and yes, we have 180,000 members, but we also started our own insurance company, wholly owned by us, with no private shareholders, and it's already showing that we are able to lower rates 30% compared to the rest of the market. In January, we're going to be starting our first medical home, a medical practice for freelancers, because we take our money and recycle it back. We also have heard today some great organization, Relay Rides. We've all heard about Airbnb. There's car sharing. All these things are coming together, and they're not little quaint movements. What's so significant about them is none of them have been created by government. None of them are run by government. None are founded by the government or funded by the government. And why is this relevant? We'll get to that in a moment. What they have to be is sustainable. What does that mean? That revenues have to exceed expenses. They can't be whimsical or little charming, quaint ideas. They actually have to be able to perpetuate themselves. They have to have a time horizon that's much longer than quarterly returns. In fact, they have to think about generation after generation. And in fact, that's based on, and I'm going to have to speed up, the Iroquois, who talk about 7 generations in the future. So we, in our insurance company, we talk to our members and we say, we try to make decisions for 2 generations because we're American and we'll never get to 7, but we'll do the best we can. But why is this relevant? And I feel like this is a theme running throughout because we know the social need that's out there. But we know the truth. And the truth is that in the next 5 to 10 years, the truth is we're not going to see the kinds of programs like a new Social Security program. We know we're not going to see Health Reform Part 2. And I don't say that to be self-defeating, but because somebody else here used the word bullshit, I feel like I can say it too. We have to look at the facts on the ground, and we have to start thinking about how we're going to build something. And we have to let go of the old ideologies that are tired and start being open to change. We have to sort of change some of the ways that we think. When we have this saying at the Freelancers Union that we try to hire people who are nice, and that sounds really boring, especially in New York, but I'm from Brooklyn, so I can say that. But what I mean is that we're looking for people who are collaborators, who want to build. We're all trained in school and the way we read and the media that we get to be like, let's just tear them down, but that's never going to build anything. So what's the next role for government then? Because I believe there's an active and robust role for government. And I think what it is government has to start thinking about how to enable this, how to build it, how to make it blossom. And I have one idea that a number of people have, which is let's start looking at the tax code and making it that if you contribute to a social purpose business or a co-op or any of this kind of sector, you should get a tax break. If you and I contribute to a charity, we get 100% tax break, and that's how the foundation world started, and it unleashed this amazing capital market for the nonprofit sector. Let's get a big, fat capital market for this sector now with that kinds of tax deduction. Yes. So in 25 seconds, I'm going to close and say there's so much to do, and I want to leave you with 2 great quotes. One is by William Gibson, who said, "The future is now, it's just not very evenly distributed." And the second is by Charles Darwin. "It is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change. Thank you very much.